Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. In today's episode, I am sharing with you my top 10 farmhouse projects from 2024. I am very unclear of how we are already facing 2025, but here we are, so let's celebrate by sharing our best of the year. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing. If you like any of today's projects, remember to hit that thumbs up. But let's go see the best of 2024. I absolutely love making risers, and this is one of my favorites I've ever done. And this is all Dollar Tree products. You can see all of the different things that I used here. Now this piece that I'm opening here is completely decorative and optional. If you want to keep this under like that $5 price point, you could definitely remove that piece, but it really does add a fun, nice little decorative element to it. Now, I made one of these in one of my recent videos. I did a laser video and I used a file and cut one out and made it with my laser. And I thought, how can I make this so everybody could make it? You wouldn't have to have a laser to make it. And the one I made was really small and I thought, I want a bigger one. I loved it so much. So this was kind of just a brainchild. I've seen other people do these with some different Dollar Tree products, but I just love that this is all wood. It's so sturdy and it's going to definitely be something I use for a really long time. So you can kind of see all of these different products that I use here. This is a shelf pack that came with 2 pieces of wood. I decided to only use one of the pieces, and this base here you can use either one of the square drawers or this is a pencil holder. One is a little bit wider, one's a little bit taller. I chose to go with the pencil holder that was a little bit taller, but any wooden box is going to work. Use your imagination. I mean, I kind of sat and just came up with different pieces that would work for this. Now this little shelf had some holes in the edge and we definitely don't want those, so I'm just using some spackling to fill those holes in, and then I'm just using my fingernail file to smooth those out. That way you don't even tell that they're there. Now I'm going to use some wood glue on each of these different layers here. So I'm just putting some on this. And again, this little piece is just a decorative piece, but it really does add such a beautiful element to it. And we're making a riser that looks like a vintage scale. And so it looks really fun. And a lot of those vintage scales did have that kind of shape on them. Is that decorative piece there. Now this is going to be the face of the scale where the little dial is. So I'm gluing a couple of, I do a stack of 4 tumbling tower blocks and then another one here. The reason for this is I want this to be kind of at an angle, but I need contact points to be able to glue this on. So you'll see when I set this up against the pencil holder here, that it kind of sits at an angle there, and so you're going to glue each of those tumbling tower blocks, and this is what helps give it some support and some contact space for the glue. I'm just fitting everything together to see kind of where I want the spacing to look and how it looks, and you can kind of see exactly where that dial would go, and I decide that works. Now, this part you can kind of use your imagination or creativity, but you need to come up with something to help lift up the portion of the scale that your items would sit on. So I had a little wood square. You could use a plunger handle from Dollar Tree. I just have a leftover piece from a dowel. You could use tumbling tower blocks to do this. So many different options, but just something to help prop up this top portion of the scale, to give my little dowel a little bit of security and a little bit more contact surface with the plate that's sitting on the top. I glue a couple of tumbling tower blocks with some wood glue to it just to kind of give a little bit of stability. If I had it to do over again, I would probably go up through the pencil holder and glue it to that and drill up through it with like a screw to give it a little bit even more stability, or drill down from that. Like somehow I would have drilled into this particular piece rather than the way I did it. It's fine. It's sturdy. It's going to hold. But especially if you're going to resell this, I probably would do that. But if you're just making this for yourself, and I mean, really, it would hold fine. I just am giving you a little bit of a different option there. Even some tumbling tower blocks, making a cute like X or something, I think would give a little bit more stability to it as well. But I'm just going to glue this top piece onto that pencil holder once I have it glued down. And then I tried to find the heaviest thing I could to stack and balance on this to help get that wood glue to hold and to dry with a really firm contact. So I was able to stack this bunch of plates on there. I mean, there's several plates there. It was heavy. So now I printed off, just getting on Google, I found some free scale dial images. So you just go to Google search and type in scale face printable, and this is what came up. And there was a couple different options. And then I just printed them out. I sized them in Canva to the size of my circle. And then I'm just using a glue stick here to get this scale face adhered. So just a liberal amount of glue, and then I will place that on. Right here, I'm just making sure that I get it positioned correctly and it's not going to be like crooked or anything. So I leaned my scale face up against the scale. Now I will put the colors of spray paint that I used in the description, but this is called, I believe it's Leafy Green. That is by Rust-Oleum. It is a beautiful color. It reminds me, it's not quite an avocado green, but very reminiscent of that green color they used back in the industrial era with all of the different scales. Not quite like tractor green, but a really good in between. And I've loved it for my projects this spring. But I believe it's called Leafy Green and it's by Rust-Oleum. And again, I'll leave that in my description box for you. Now I just kind of sanded off any excess paper that went over the edge on my scale. And then since it is paper and may have that white edge, I'm just going around with my Sharpie to cover up any white that's showing so it blends seamlessly into the scale circle there, into that circle, so it all looks like it was meant to be like this. I've become a fan of using my heat press now that I have one, just to give a little bit of an extra way to adhere this. And I do love the bond that comes with this. It helps get any wrinkles or anything out. That's totally optional. I just had my heat press heated up, so I thought I would try it. And I'm putting some Mod Podge on here. This is matte Mod Podge, but you could use gloss or satin. It doesn't matter, just as kind of the finish you want, but you're just going to seal off that scale face. And then using some Gorilla Glue. You could even use hot glue to do this portion here. I was just trying to not have the extra thick hot glue, but I just put that on the edge of my Jenga blocks or the tumbling tower blocks, and that's what's going to glue to my pencil holder there to get that scale face glued on. Now you don't have to go overboard with distressing, but I definitely feel like this needs a little bit of a black around even just the edges. You can do the lightest touch, just something to give some definition to the edges. It's just kind of all stark, one color, one dimensional. So I do a little bit of distressing after I do the edges, but I definitely feel like something needs to be done on this edges to give it a little bit more dimension and a little bit more embellishing. I kind of was trying to mimic what it would look like if the scale had been used for years. So on the top of it, I feel like items would have been placed on a scale and drug off. So I felt like it would have been a little bit worn out looking on the top of there. Maybe the paint had faded or chipped on that. And then all around the detail of the different edges where that kind of scroll work is on that base piece, I pay attention there, just kind of all over. Again, it's kind of just a matter of personal preference on this, but I would definitely, bare minimum, do the edges. I'm thinking that it looks pretty good there. You can kind of see all around, all different angles there. But here's when it's styled. Is this not the cutest thing? I love how this turned out. And I feel like this is so sturdy. It's not made out of like plastic pieces that I've seen some of the other faux scales made out of. I really feel like this is something that would last for years. To me, it looks like something I would have found like at the back of my grandma's kitchen cabinet that maybe she had used to weigh her different things in her kitchen, like used as a meat scale or something. I don't know, but I just really feel like this is such a great addition for a farmhouse kitchen to have something really cute displayed. It's definitely a different take on a riser. I would really love to know what you guys think of this one. I really loved this tin sign when I saw it, and it was the right price at $2, and it had this beautiful texture all around the edge of it, and so I thought I can really work with this. So I'm just going to use my heat tool to remove all of the stickers from the back here and give a nice clean surface to work on. And I'm spraying it down to get it all clean, all that dust and grime wiped away here, and starting with a nice clean slate that we want to do. My original intent with this sign was to paint it all completely white and then use some different colors to kind of make that texture on the edges pop. However, when I got to this point and kind of started seeing how the dry brushing looked on that tin, I was like, ooh, I really want to have that be what it looks like. So I'm just going to wipe the paint back and start completely over. As I'm wiping the paint, it's drying. So I'm just going to spray a little bit of my mister on there, and that's just going to help dampen the paint. So it's easy for me to wipe off. So just a wet paper towel or a wet wipe is going to help get that paint off of there. And then to protect that tin so I don't spill over with any of the paint, I'm just putting some painter's tape to give some nice crisp, clean edges. And it takes about 2 to 3 coats of chalk paint to cover that middle design there. And because I don't want to see that at all, I want to kind of have this be its own sign and not see any of that. I mean, the sign was beautiful the way it was, but it's just not what I'm going for. So now I put a little antiquing wax on a paper towel here, or just a towelette or something, and I want to age this color of paint here. I want it to look like it's been around for a very long time. So I'm just kind of smearing some antiquing wax on this. You create a lot of texture when you're using the chalk paint with brush strokes or whatnot. And so this is what's fun about using chalk paint, is it can go to all of that antiquing wax can go into all of the different texture that you created. So it really is fun to play around with different types of waxes to see the different types of finishes you get on different colors. So I'm just rubbing this all around here and kind of going back and forth to dip it in some more wax on here. Now I don't leave it this heavy, so I'll show you how I rectify that, because it does look pretty heavy at this point. So I'm spraying my mister on here, and this is just going to add a little bit of water on there, and I will come in and just kind of wipe it back. And this is going to take away some of the top layer that hasn't fallen down into all of the texture. And so that way you still get the antiqued wax look, but it's not as dark, it's not as heavy. I'm using that same towel that I used to put the antiquing wax on. I'm using it kind of like a stamp to add a little bit of extra texture, a little bit of extra aging, distressing on there. Completely optional, but I do like the way that it turns out. Now I have these stencils from Essential Stencils. There's a couple of them in this package here that say, you know, like market or antiques. And I ultimately decided on one that says vintage, just because I love this antique one, but I didn't love all of the detail on it. So I just kind of thought this one that said vintage was perfect. So I'm just using my ruler to kind of make sure that I get it as centered as I can here. And then I just place a little bit of painter's tape on the sides to hold that into place. Now I'm going to use some elephant chalk paint with a stencil brush. These stencil brushes also came from Essential Stencils, so if you do happen to get some stencils from them, pick up their brushes, because they are so much better than the cheap Dollar Tree brushes, and they're not super expensive either, and they last, if you take care of them, they're going to last a very long time. But I'm just using a up and down pouncing motion as well as a swirling motion, and I let the first layer dry, and I actually go back in a second time because I wanted that vintage to really, the words to really pop, or the letters to really pop on there. So that's why I decided to go over it twice to give a nice thick coat to it. It's always fun to peel back your stencil and reveal your design. I just think this turns out so beautiful. Their stencils are amazing, so I highly recommend checking them out if you like to do stenciling or rub-on transfers at all. So now I'm just going to go over the letters here with just a little bit of paint. This is just the paint that was left over in my brush from painting the sign, to go over the letters to kind of make them look not so crisp and clear. It just adds a little bit of weathering to them, I would say, maybe even more than distressing. And then I'm going to just peel back all of this painter's tape to reveal the edge of my sign. To help this beautiful texture shine through on the edge of this, this is just a little bit of paint. All I've done is just dip it in a little bit of white paint, brushed most of it off, and then I'm just coming over all of the edges here, you can see, and just hitting all of it, just hits all those high points of that texture and that detail to help that pop. And I really, really love how this turns out. This has got such a beautiful design on that edge, and where it was left the color that it was, like you couldn't really even see all of that detail. So I just am taking my towel and a little bit of antiquing wax. This is all this is doing is it's just aging the paint that's on there a little bit, and it's brushing back some to kind of help that natural brown color kind of reveal itself as well. I think this turns out so beautiful. I can just imagine this in some cute little old time shop or something, or just something that a little storefront might have, saying that they have vintage items. This would even be really so beautiful in a little powder room or something. I love this. Where would you guys put this in your house? I just think this turns out so beautiful, and I love that my vision kind of changed as I went along with it. Instead of painting the entire sign, I had that idea to showcase that edge, and I think I'm so grateful that I made that choice because that edge looks so beautiful. This piece is really simple and it doesn't take a whole lot of time to create, and it's really, really pretty. And I just have these pieces from Dollar Tree. So I'm showing you 5 pieces here. If you want to make a base out of like this leftover piece right here, that's totally optional. I just wanted to keep this under that $5 price point. And now that it's $1.25, not $1, we're working with 4 items, not 5. So I have 2 of the square pieces and 2 of the like picket fence or house looking pieces. These came from the crafter square section at Dollar Tree. They have them in this finish, and there's also like a white finish. You can also paint it to be any color that you would like. I'm going to leave mine this natural color today. Now I'm just taking my heat tool to help heat up the adhesive on the back of these price stickers that are on here, the little barcode stickers. It's just an easy way to remove these, to use like your little putty knife there or your fingernail and get under there, and then just be careful not to burn your fingers, because I've done that a time or two. And so, but you're just heating that up and it just peels right off, and it leaves very minimal adhesive on there. If it does leave a little bit of the adhesive, or you just want to kind of blend that in a little bit more, just run a little emery board over it, or sanding, some sandpaper to kind of help get that off and remove that. And it just kind of helps it so there's no residue left behind. Now I'm taking the 2, we're just going to call them a house piece, even though they're kind of like a picket fence, or I think they're supposed to be kind of like a house, but we're taking the 2 house pieces and we're going to place them against the side pieces here. You want your side pieces to be on the outside. See how I slipped this piece on the inside there? Because you don't want any rough edges to show when you're looking at this head on, if you're looking at it from a house facing you. Now I'm just using some E6000 glue. I feel like this works a little bit better than hot glue, but like some Gorilla Glue would work great. Some of the Dollar Tree super glue would work great. I just like the gel consistency of the E6000 here to make sure that I'm getting a good bond, but any type of like adhesive that you're used to using. So I put that on all 3 sides, and then I'm just going to set that off to the side there, and then put some glue on my other one so I can work fairly quickly once I have this done. This is why I don't think hot glue would work the best, because I feel like it would break down over time, and I feel like sometimes if it dries a little bit, it gets a little clumpy, and I don't want that happening with this. I want this to look as clean and precise as I can. Now I'm just going to, now I realized here quickly that I'd placed the outside of this piece on the inside. So when you're doing this and putting it together, just make sure you have all of the outside pieces that have that kind of planked wood look on the outside. And you can do this with any wood pieces. I mean, say you had like a couple pieces of picket fence or some scrap wood in your garage, you could definitely cut these down and make this. You wouldn't have to use anything from Dollar Tree. If you already had some scrap wood, it would be a free project for you to make. So I'm just fitting these together very nicely here, making sure that I line all of the edges up. You do have a little bit of movement with that E6000 that you can kind of scoot any of the pieces around as you need. Now, I love these clamps. These are some of my favorite clamps. I have them in a couple of different sizes, and it really helps to get that pressure and leave that on until that E6000 dries. And then this is going to be a pretty permanent fixture here. So I'm just going to line the sides up on this side now, and I'm going to place another one of these clamps. And I'm just making sure that the sides line up the best because I want this to look, I mean, if you decide you're going to sell these or anything like that, you definitely want the most professional look. So just take your time and make sure that everything looks really nice and clean there. And so then I just squeeze this other set of clamps on here, and I leave this overnight to dry. And you can kind of see here, I need to kind of scoot that in a little bit more, push it down, make sure that's got a really even, you have a little bit, like I say with that E6000, a little bit of movement to do that. And then these clamps just squeeze on here to have that really nice firm tight. And again, I just leave this overnight, give it one last little squeeze there so it can dry completely. So the next day I come back and I'm going to remove these clamps, and there's a little trigger on them that you just kind of pull and that releases the tension. They're very easily to operate and then they just slide off. I just pick these up like at Home Depot or Lowe's. You can order them on Amazon. They're pretty easy to find at any type of home decor store, or not home decor store, but home improvement store. Now, just showing you how sturdy this box is, it is not going anywhere. That E6000 worked great to give this the bond that it needed. I'm going to go over this with a little bit of a fingernail file. You guys know me, you know I love to distress things. So whether you paint this or whether you distress it, leave it as it is. Anyway, it's going to be beautiful. This has a little bit of grooves in it to kind of have it look like planks of wood. So it really does kind of help those pop when you sand around them. You can kind of see, I'll show you. I just think it looks really nice and kind of has a good rustic touch. If you were to sell these, you could do several different finishes, see which sold best for you. But I'll just repeat that same process around the entire piece. Now I'm just going to stick any plant that you've got at home or any type of greenery or anything like that. This is just like a little planter box for you. And so it's going to be really cute and really nice. However, I have this piece of rope. I had some extra rope lying around from another project. I'm just going to spray it with some water and kind of pull it taut and then let it dry flat so I can get that little kink that was in there out of it. Now, you don't have to do the rope. This is totally optional. Don't go out and buy it. It's going to take you over that $5 budget. But if you happen to have some laying around your house or in your garage or something, you just need maybe like not even quite a foot, like 10 inches maybe of it. And I just tied it in a knot on either end. I'm going to place this in here and glue it down with some hot glue, and I'm going to glue it onto either side on the inside. And then to have this hold in place until that glue dries, I just use a couple of my little Dollar Tree clamps. I love these things. Do you guys use these in your crafting? They come in a couple different sizes and I feel like I use them all the time, but that's just going to help that rope stay in place and get a good bond there. Now, you're not going to be carrying this by the rope. However, if you were to sell this, somebody might think like, oh, I can carry this by the rope, and you don't want it coming off. The glue does give a really good bond, but I do go in with my staple gun and I just give it a staple on each side. Just make sure your staples are deep enough to go through the rope and the wood there. You could even, look how cute this looks with the plant in there. You could even drill like a hole, like on either side, like right here, you could drill a hole on either side and have the rope come through and tie on the knot on the outside or the inside. That would be really cute. But look at how beautiful this is. It was a very simple project. It did not take much time at all. And I think for the impact and the size of this piece, for being less than $5, is great. And of course, if you were to sell these, you wouldn't have to put a plant in them. You could display it with a plant and show, because a lot of us, especially crafters, have a lot of greenery laying around our house that you could just stick in here. But for different seasons, to tuck into on a shelf, I think this is just beautiful. What do you guys think of this piece? Do you like this one? Rolling pins are super easy to find at thrift stores, antique stores, in this case, vintage market days. In fact, I saw so many of them in different booths at vintage market days. I started taking a little bit of footage just to show you. It was almost comical that like almost every booth had some type of rolling pins. Now, whether you have some vintage ones or newer ones, you want to showcase them maybe in a collection, maybe you just have one that you want to showcase, I have a really fun idea for you that you can do with vintage rolling pins that's not going to compromise the integrity of your rolling pin. You don't have to use paint, but you can even change it up for different seasons and do it however you want. I really love this idea, and I hope that you guys like this too, because it is super fun. Now, this is some fabric I picked up at Dollar Tree. I thought it was very perfect for a kitchen DIY. Kind of has like the farmer's market, the butcher. I just really thought it was perfect for this project. So I'm just putting a little slit in one edge of the fabric, and I'm going to tear this down. It tears pretty easily here, and the point of this is to have a really frayed edge. So I'm going to even kind of pull some extra little strings out and make sure that's a really like ratty-tatty frayed edge there. And that really gives that nice farmhouse aged look. And then I just kind of lay it up against my rolling pin, and you just decide how much of your rolling pin you want to have showing and how much fabric you want on there. I just kind of eyeballed that, and I just put a little slit in, and I'm going to tear this piece off and do the same thing with it, pulling away all of the extra threads and everything to give it a really frayed edge look. I love to have my mini heat press heated up when I'm working with fabric or ribbon because it is so nice to be able to use this as an iron and get all of the wrinkles out. It really is a great tool to have. Now we need to make one more cut to our fabric here, so I'm just rolling the fabric around the rolling pin here, and I'm going to cut, leaving about an inch to overlap. And then the same process, I just tear this fabric and then I fray all of the edges. I'm going to use my Elmer's Purple School glue stick for this. It is non-toxic, so it is not going to harm your rolling pin in any way, either in residue or by adding harmful chemicals or anything into there. So I just placed that on my fabric. Now you could completely skip this step and just fold the fabric over on itself and not glue anything directly to the rolling pin. And I'm just going to take my heat press and iron this edge flat so it will lay flat on the rolling pin. And then I put my glue directly on the fabric here, on this edge of the fabric, so that way when I fold it over, then I've got a nice edge that's sealed onto my rolling pin. Putting this edge down and you're pulling it kind of taut, you just want to pay attention to the line of the fabric and make sure that it stays as straight as possible so it doesn't look all skiwampus or anything. And I do take my heat press and I go over this edge. This helps if there's any wrinkles or any creases or anything that happen. It smooths those out really well. Now you could leave your rolling pin like this, but this is the fun part for me, is embellishing it. I love how mine turns out. Yours may look completely different than this, so hopefully this just helps give you some fun ideas. I just take some of the thicker Walmart twine and I wrap that around 3 or 4 times and then tie it off in a knot. And I took a little sprig of the Walmart boxwood, as well as this little piece of lavender that came from this year's Dollar Tree spring bundle. And I just placed those under the knot there. And then to get them to stay, I take my hot glue, and you're just going to place the littlest amount of hot glue, just enough to keep those in place. This is going onto the fabric. It's not going to harm the rolling pin in any way. I had made this little beaded chain and I thought, oh, maybe do I want to put it on here? This is me trying to hold it up to decide if I decide to put it on or not. It really went back and forth on this. I do end up adding it and I really do like how it looks, but it took me a minute to kind of imagine what it looked like. But I just essentially tie this around the knot so it's on there. I take some smaller twine and I just wrap that around my finger, maybe 10 times or so to make a little finger bow. I'll just take another piece of twine and wrap that around the middle to make a little bow here and just tie that off, and just those loops are going to make a cute bow to put on here. I know bows aren't everybody's thing. I think it looks really cute on here. It needed something extra, and in my mind this was the perfect thing. So if you had a different idea, it would be fun to know what else you guys would try. So just a little bit of hot glue. I let that dry for a little bit before I place it down so the glue doesn't squirt out everywhere. And then I just kind of move my tassels or the tails of the bow there. I trim them up a little bit so they're not so crazy. And then here it is. Now, the fun thing about this is if you were to hang this, because it's got a hole in the handle, and kind of switch the direction of your bow, then those beads hang really cute if you were to display that like off a hanging rod or something. I'll show you what that looks like, but I think this looks really cute. I think the florals on the one side and the beads on the other really do kind of balance each other out. Here's a look at what it looks like hanging. What a fun way to display this if you have a hook or a shelf somewhere that you could hang things from. And imagine if you were to do this for some different seasons. It would be really easy to change this out because we're not compromising that rolling pin in any way. But imagine like a Christmas rolling pin or fall or something. I just think what a fun way to bring an actual kitchen item in and use it as decor, especially if you have some vintage ones or a collection. Kind of a fun, unique way to display these. What do you guys think of this one? I was so excited when I saw this piece in the thrift store. It was missing one of its little like hanging knobs there. It was $1.50, I believe, is what I paid on this piece. And it, you know, clearly it's meant to be hung on the wall for you to hang something from, like your aprons or something. I don't know, whatever you use, some cute little decor or something. But it was missing a couple of one of the little knobs on it. So I'm just going to remove the others and I'm going to turn this into a riser. You guys know I love my risers. They're so fun. They're such a great way to bring some different textures into your decorating, and I feel like they're pieces that can be used over and over again. I recently did a bridal shower for my niece and I took all of my risers and we had the most beautiful display of food for the table on all these different heights and different things. It was so pretty. So they really do come in handy and I just love having a lot of them. So it takes just a minute for me to get all of the hardware removed from this. I even removed the pieces where you would hang this, because we don't need them there anymore. And I'm going to end up spray painting this so I can get into all those little grooves. Hand painting this I think would be kind of a nightmare, so I didn't want to even go down that road. I'm just taking a little spackling. My spackling is kind of dry. I think I need to get a new tub of it because it was a little bit, but it worked, but it's definitely on its last leg here. But I'm just kind of pushing that down through that opening where the knobs were screwed in. And then I will just let this dry and then I will go back in and sand it so it's flat. And that's just going to camouflage that hole that was in there from where those little hanging fixtures were. To turn this into a riser, I'm using some little teeny finials. I purchased these on Amazon. I will leave a link to them in my description box. But if you want to make it really easy on yourself, even just some little wood beads, if you have some even from Dollar Tree or something, would work perfect for this. So we're going to paint over them so it could even be like the colored beads from Dollar Tree. But I do love these little finials. I buy them in a pack of like 25 or 50 of them. So I have quite a few and they just kind of have a little bit of a different shape than a wooden bead, and so it kind of adds just a little bit more embellishment on it than just a plain wooden bead. But again, nobody's going to be turning this over and looking at the back side of it, so you're probably fine to just do what you have. I love this coastal sage color. This is such a beautiful color of spray paint. I couldn't leave this natural because we had to remove that hardware, and so I had to fix with the spackling. So I did need to choose a color, but I think this is going to match my decor so wonderfully, and I think this is a very kind of a neutral color almost in the decor styles that you're seeing today. But look at how pretty this is and how beautiful. I really think this is going to be such a fun riser to have with all of those cutouts and everything. And you can go as simple as you want or as elaborate as you want, even to put like a couple candles on here or have this in your bathroom with some beautiful perfume bottles or something. I just think this is so pretty. I always say that I am not the biggest gnome fan unless it's garden gnomes, and we're going to make this the cutest little garden gnome. And I really know that gnomes are very popular. You either love them or you hate them, or maybe you only like them in the garden or you love them all over your house. This is such a fun one. So I'm just taking 2 pots here, and I chose to do one without a lip for the base here, and then the other one that has a lip for the cute little hat. And I just thought it would be so fun to paint this turquoise color on the base. This is like pretty traditional gnome colors. Maybe like almost reminds me of Papa Smurf, the colors that I'm using here. But I'm just doing a red color for the hat and then that turquoise color for the body of our gnome. And then once I take these inside here, you can kind of see that this is so smooth and flat, the base here. And I picked that one up at Lowe's, and Walmart was where I got all of my other just traditional shaped terracotta pots here. And these are the 4-inch size for the hat, and it's about just a little over 5 inches on the base that I'm using. But you could easily use one of the traditional shapes for the body here. Now I'm going to just freehand a beard on here. I thought I couldn't mess this up too much, freehanding a beard. We'll see what you guys think at the end here. But I'm just kind of going with eyeballing it and just getting my best at what the shape of a beard and how long. I might have gone a little bit long, but it turns out all right. But I'm just going to get the outline done first, and then I'll go in and fill it in. It did take a couple of coats to get the coverage that I wanted, and on the last coat I went ahead and just kind of pounced my paint on there to give a little bit of texture, so it was kind of shaggy looking like a beard, and it looks really, really cute. So it's got a really thick coat of paint on that last one. You could even add a little bit of like plaster or something into it to give it even more texture. So now I'm going to glue on our little gnome's hat, and I'm just putting some E6000 on the rim of the inside, just where that pot is going to make contact with the base there. And then you're just going to, I mean, it's easy peasy, just set this on, make sure that you get a firm hold there, like that you make sure that the glue is where it's touching the gnome's body. For the nose, I'm just using a bead from some Christmas tree garland. I love to pick that up at Hobby Lobby when they start to get their Christmas in, which, P.S. guys, they've already started getting Christmas in. It's not on sale yet, but keep watching because I love to get 3 or 4 strands of their beaded garland. You can get it for like $5 and you get tons of beads on there, and it comes in a lot of different shades on the wood color. I love to have those to craft with. Now for the little hat here, I thought it needed something on the top of it, and I kept going back and forth of what to do, but this is just some cord that came with a Dollar Tree shelf that you hang. But I mean, any kind of yarn or embroidery thread, well, embroidery thread might be a little bit thin, but just any type of like the cording that you can pick up in the automotive section at Dollar Tree. I'm just making a little pom-pom with it. I just like rounded it around my finger several times and then tied it off in the middle and then cut the ends, and it works perfect to make a cute little pom-pom on top of this guy's hat. Isn't he the cutest? I just think he's so fun. I love those traditional colors of a garden gnome. To me, like turquoise and red with that white beard just is like a traditional gnome colors. I don't know. Do you think the same? Or maybe that's just me, but I just thought he turned out so cute. He's going to be so fun displayed amongst all of my pots on my porch. I just think this was so fun. And if you've got a gnome lover, what a fun gift to make for them. Keep your eyes peeled for these shape of signs at Dollar Tree. They're perfect for doing projects with the Dollar Tree calendar pages. Plus they have this beautiful frame that's around them that makes projects very simple and easy. Unfortunately, I only had one of those signs, but I needed 2 because I'm making 2 signs. So I'm making them from scratch. So I like to use these wooden slats that I buy on Amazon. They're a lot like painter stir sticks, but they don't have that little notch in the end of them. So I don't have to cut them down or remove that portion of the stir stick. I also have these 12 by 12 sheets of wood. I buy them in a pack of 25 on Amazon. I'll leave links to these down in my description box, but any type of wood or sign blank you have would work just fine. Now in this year's calendar from Dollar Tree, they have these 2 pictures that complement each other so well. They definitely go together. They're about 6 months apart in the calendar, but I thought they would be really fun to take these 2 and make 2 signs that look like you had a set. So I'm just using my X-Acto knife to remove each of these calendar pages. Normally when I would do this project, I would just use my trusty Elmer's purple school glue stick. However, I'm trying new things and I am doing this decoupage technique that a lot of you have said is your favorite. So I'm giving it a try. I did it in one of my Easter videos and I thought I would try it with calendar pages. So I just put a healthy coat of Mod Podge on here. I spray a little bit of water on here to help spread that Mod Podge out a little bit further. It also helps to thin that out so you don't get a huge goopy layer or clumps or anything like that. So just on both of my surfaces, I spread out that Mod Podge as thinly and as flat as I can. The Mod Podge, after it dries completely, is a little bit tacky, so it will hold on to this picture very well. So I'm just placing this calendar page down here. This is the Goat Milk and Cheese Company, which I thought was perfect for a kitchen sign. Now, I think I gave everybody a heart attack in my Easter video when I did not put a barrier between my heat press and my surface. So I took your advice, and I'm just placing a sheet of parchment paper here between. That's just a barrier so you don't get any goop or anything on your heat press. It protects your image and it also protects your iron. So I just go back and forth with my heat press or iron here. This is going to heat up and reactivate that Mod Podge in a way that's going to adhere and bond your image to your surface. I pay very careful attention to all of the edges and make sure, because I don't want the edges peeling up at all. So I just go around those all very lightly, just making sure that they're all getting a really good bond. I repeat the exact same process on this Milk and Company sign. I just love that Dollar Tree put both of these pages in the calendar. They clearly go together, so it's so fun to be able to have a set of signs to hang. Now on the base here, the background, I'm just placing a little bit of Gorilla Glue. Any type of quick hold glue will work fine. I don't recommend hot glue for placing the frame down. I feel like it dries way too fast. You want a little bit of time to still be able to maneuver and make sure you get everything kind of straight. You can see how I'm kind of struggling a teeny bit here. But once you get these down, they hold really well. And I love the Gorilla Glue for something like this. Now I just take my time, line them all up, and then I use the Dollar Tree clamps. You can see here to kind of hold them all into place till that glue dries. Now to get a little bit extra hold on the background, I do go around with my hot glue, just kind of connecting where the background and the frame is to give it an extra hold. Now, when I hold it up like this, it looks really flimsy almost. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than just one set of the frame looks really thin, and I don't love the way it looks. I kind of want a little bit more of a chunky look. Now, of course, you could, if you're really good with a saw, you can cut out some thicker wood and actually cut out bigger pieces to do the frame with. I decided to do a second layer of the wood slats, so I'm just going to stain all of them for each sign and do this. I don't stain the back of them because I'm just going to glue them right onto that surface. This time, now that I've got them originally into place and it will be easy for me just to lay these on top, I'm just using a little bit of E6000. It was late at night when I did this here, and so I knew I had a little bit of extra time to let this dry overnight, and that way it would get a really good bond. So I just place these exactly, you can kind of see I love how I use all those clamps, but I just placed them all down just as I had that first layer. Now to cover up the calendar hole here, so that way it doesn't look like a calendar page, I'm putting just a little bit of white paint in there, and I'm going to dab it with my finger to kind of help blend that circle around so that doesn't, so it's not just right in the hole. I go a little bit around it, and then I'm just going to help it kind of dry just by tapping my finger on that and blending it in. Now I have a paper towel that's been soaked in some antiquing wax, and I just kind of lay that down over the top of it to give it kind of that stained look. See how the rest of that sign had that? And then to blend that in, I'm going to push this a couple more spots over the sign so it looks like that naturally occurred just over that hole. And you guys cannot even see that that is there. You'd have to be up literally with probably a magnifying glass to notice that there was a hole there. You can see I just go over the entire sign again on this goat sign here, do the same process, and just add that like almost like a stamp around, just like an extra little texture that's on there. It helps kind of just blend it all in, and I really like the way that it ends up looking. But it is a great way to camouflage that calendar hanging spot there. To give a little bit of added security and stability, I went around with my staple gun on the frame and stapled it in a couple of sections to help hold it together so it wasn't ever going to pull apart or anything. I also went on the very edge of the background of the sign and stapled it into the frame just to make sure everything was really stable and I wasn't going to have any problems with this coming apart. I really couldn't be happier with how these signs turned out. I love that I added the extra layer of the frame to make it a little bit thicker. I love that Dollar Tree put both of these calendar pages in the one calendar and they match together so well so it does look like a set. And I think they're perfect for a farmhouse kitchen. I would love to know if you guys have noticed that these pages are so similar, if you've thought about doing anything with them, but it is a great way to take these two signs or pages from the calendar, turn them into some beautiful pieces of art for your kitchen. I thought it would be really fun to make a little garland or banner out of some vintage seed packets, and so I got onto Etsy and searched, and there are so many different styles to choose from. These are the ones that I ultimately decided on. I'll leave a link for them down in my description box. It was about $2 for the files, and I actually got 6 more files with them, but I really only needed 6 for the banner that I'm doing, so I just printed these out and cut them out as you saw there. Now I'm going to start making the banner. So I'm just taking my scissors and I'm running it along the edge of each of these to kind of fray it. I really want these to look like seed packets that you found like in your great grandmother's attic, that maybe she thought the artwork on them was so beautiful and she'd been holding on to them for years, and so you're deciding to make a banner or something. I just really wanted to have that vintage look to them. So after I scrape all of the edges with the scissors to kind of rough those up a little bit, I'm just wrinkling the paper, as you can see. Crumple it up, wrinkle it. If it tears, that's totally fine. I just really want a lot of creases to be in here because it will really drive home that vintage look. I'm going to do the same thing on each of the rest of these as I did on that first one. Now, to bring out those creases that we made and all of those wrinkles, I'm just using some of my distressing ink. You can pick this up at any craft store, JoAnns, Michael's, Hobby Lobby. It is great. And I'm just using the ink pad itself to go around the edge of each of these. Where we roughed that paper up with our scissors, it's going to absorb that ink and really give it that nice look that's really aged and kind of, really looks rustic. And then as I rub this over, you can see gently on over the wrinkles, it kind of picks up all those raised wrinkles. You can see here the difference between the two. It really picks up that ink and makes it look like it's just been sitting around for years. After all of that ink has dried, I'm going to put a little bit of Mod Podge on each of these, and I'm going to do this on the front and on the back. This is going to protect it. This is printed on cardstock, by the way. I forgot to mention that, and I did just print these with my regular inkjet printer. But I'm just putting Mod Podge over these to help protect them. It's something that I want to pull out maybe from spring to spring or use again. It's not just something that I want to use and then toss or anything like that. We're putting a lot of effort into it, so we want it to stay nice. So this kind of makes it have that nice coated paper feel. Now, if you have any rips or tears in your paper, at this point the Mod Podge will help seal those, and so it will just kind of look like it's just aged a little bit more. I'm just taking my Crop-A-Dile here to punch some holes into there. I didn't want to use a hole punch because it's a little bit wider and bigger than what I wanted. I just wanted a teeny little hole punch. I didn't want to take a lot away from the design on these, and so I just love the little size on the Crop-A-Dile. But if you have something else to punch a hole in these, that's perfect, and that will work just fine. Now I'm going to take some twine, and this is the thicker rope twine that you can pick up at Walmart, and I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue on the end, let it kind of dry for just a second so it's still like pliable, and then I'll just kind of wind it with my fingers to kind of make a nice little like needle point almost, so that way it will be really easy to thread through each of these little seed packets. However, just a little bit of tape on the end would do the same thing. So just whatever you've got or whatever method, just be careful if you're rolling your fingers on the hot glue not to burn yourself, because I've done that a time or two. Now, depending on where you hang this, it will depend on how many you print out. It will depend on how far you space them apart. It would be even really cute to put like a wooden bead between each of them. Really use your imagination and dress this up for what you're using it for. I just have a little mirror that I thought this would look really cute hanging in front of. I kind of do different banners for different seasons or holidays, and I thought this would really have that nice kind of potting shed feel, perfect for springtime or just to bring a fresh touch to your house. Look at how beautiful this is hanging up. I love all of these designs. They're some of my favorite flowers, and I just love the idea of using these vintage looking seed packets. Now, if you actually had some vintage seed packets, how cute would that be? Or even just pick up some cute seed packets. I've noticed the artwork on some of the ones that you just find at your garden store or the garden section at your home improvement store all have really cute designs on them. Some of them do. So that would be something you could even look at too. I just love how this looks, and I think it's going to be so adorable in my home. If you're like me and have quite a few of these little house shapes from Dollar Tree and are trying to come up with different DIYs to do with them, here's a unique take on one. So this is from the fairy garden section at Hobby Lobby. It says $3.99 on there. Get it when it's 40% off, and we're only just using maybe like 6 inches of it. It's very long, as you can see. I got it because I thought it would be kind of fun to use in some tiered tray projects or something that you might just need a little picket fence for. But I'm just using my wire snippers just to kind of snip that. The wires are very thin. It's very easy to cut through. And then I'm just going to use some E6000 and hot glue because I really want firm bond on this. And so I'm just using the both of them. And I'm just putting them on one of those little pickets there. And then you'll kind of see I place it towards the bottom. And kind of, you want it definitely flush with the bottom though, because you don't want this to pull it forward since we're adding weight onto it. So you want to make sure that the bottom of your fence matches up with the bottom of the house. And I'm just holding that until that hot glue takes that immediate hold. And while I'm doing that, I'm just one-handedly trying to put some hot glue and some E6000 on the other picket. And I'll just do the same thing on the other side. I bend it in so that way it's gluing it onto there. And then you have this cute little picket fence on this house. Now I wanted to make it like a birdhouse. So I'm just taking one of my sponge tools from Dollar Tree. I put it in some black paint and I'm just doing a couple test runs with it here on some paper to make sure it's making a good size circle. I don't want a like excess amount of glue on there or anything. So I'm just kind of going for it. You can kind of see I decided I want a little more paint and I just kind of clean it off there and make sure that it's making a good circle. And then you just go for it. You just pick a spot, put it down, kind of twist it back and forth to get that really good circle shape. This is definitely something if you wanted it to look like a true birdhouse that you could drill the hole through there. You could hand put it on there. You could cut something out with your Cricut, however you want to get that on there, but it definitely makes it look like a little birdhouse now. So I'm just going around the edge of all of the edges here with the remainder of that black paint. This is just adding a little more detail to it, kind of making those different little edges stick out a little bit more, kind of just a little bit more embellishment there, which I really do like how it ends up looking on that. So here's our cute little house. It's all coming together. I think it's just looking so cute, but I really want there to be some plants in where this fence is. So I'm just putting a little bit of styrofoam just to kind of help hold what I'm going to put in there. So I just glue that down with some hot glue. And then comes the fun part of getting whatever little scraps of plants that you have, or if you have a sprig or something that you want to use, a pick from Dollar Tree. This is just some leftover boxwood that I have from Walmart. I love this stuff. I use it in a lot of projects, so I always have a bunch of this on hand. But this is just one that I already taken a bunch of pieces off of. I'm just kind of taking some smaller pieces of it and using some hot glue to get it stuck to that styrofoam piece. And that styrofoam is kind of just like a filler, so that way we don't have to put so much stuff in there, so it's kind of taking up some space. But this is where it comes in really good handy here, is I'm just putting some glue on the bottom and I'm going to put some Spanish moss in there. So that's going to camouflage that styrofoam under there, and it's also going to add a different texture in there. I just think it looks really cute, but I do pay attention to getting it kind of slid all around. I use my little popsicle stick or the little tools I have there just to kind of slide it from the top of the fence and the bottom of the fence to get it all the way around your little block of styrofoam. And honestly, if you wanted to put the styrofoam down first and kind of put the Spanish moss around it and then do your fence, I think you'd be okay. This was just I was just kind of doing it as I went along. So this is kind of the order that I did it in, but I think that would be okay. You definitely would just want to glue your plants in last. And then I have this cute little bird that I had made in one of my spring videos last year. So I just thought it was super cute. So I'm just putting a little dot of glue on there to kind of bring home the fact that this is a little birdhouse. This is his home, and he has like the best lawn on the block, I tell you. I think it looks really cute, and it's just kind of something fun and different to do with these little birdhouse shapes. I mean, you could embellish this in any different way, so hopefully you have fun when you make yours, but I just thought that little bird there was so cute, and with that little hole that we put on that center piece of the slat of wood there, it really does just drive home that it's a birdhouse. And he does have the cutest little yard. You could put in some little like flowers if you want. I mean, you could really just use your imagination or go as basic as you want. Either way, I think it's going to turn out really cute. What do you guys think of this one? If you watched my Easter Dollar Tree haul, you'll know that I picked up a couple of these bunnies, and I really wanted to make this over into a primitive looking bunny to have a really kind of aged look. And I've never really done a whole lot of the primitive look, so it was kind of new to me. And I was actually watching Lisa from Our Shabby Cottage, and she did one of these last year, and she had the brilliant idea to use this distressing ink on the bunny, especially this brown. There's a brown bunny and a white bunny, and she used it on this brown bunny, and I thought that's genius because it really does age this bunny. Now, if you're not familiar with the primitive look, it is a very aged, old, and like dirty kind of look. So it really does look like this is hundreds of years old is what you're going for. And I know that's not everybody's style, but I really do love the primitive look. I just don't have a lot of it, but I thought it would be really fun to kind of test the waters here. Hopefully I do a good job and you guys think it looks good in the end, but I really this was a lot of fun. I mean, even my daughter came down and watched while I was doing this and was like, this is so cute. It's like, she loved it. So, and she's like 15, so she thought it was pretty cool. So anyways, I'm going over with that distressing ink to kind of age this bunny and have it look very old. Now I know some people have used like Mod Podge and cinnamon even to get that dirty look. You can tea dye like the white bunny or coffee dye or something. So however you want to age it up, but this distressing ink, if you have that, worked really well. Now I'm just taking some scrap fabric that I have and I'm going to make a little apron for our little bunny, and I'm just going to fray the edges of the apron there of all this fabric here so it just looks like ratted and tattered. And then I cut a long strip here. This is going to be like the straps of the apron. And so you can kind of see down in there, I think I skewed it up here in a second for you guys to see this a little bit better, but this is just going to be, you know, like the front of the apron, and those ties go over the shoulder and then tie in the back. So I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue, and that's just going to place those straps down here. Now you guys, I have a jar of buttons, of all sorts of different buttons, but do you think that I could find that jar? I mean, the primitive look uses like a lot of buttons and a lot of like age safety pins or things. I mean, there's a lot of fun little elements to do with it, but I could not find my buttons to save my life. So I scrounged up what buttons I could find. So they may not be as perfect as if I find my jar of buttons somewhere. Apparently I need to be on the lookout for some more buttons to add. Then I may change these out, but you'll have to let me know what you think of what I end up using here. The apron, when I put on our cute little bunny here, was a little bit long. So I just cut that off to about where I wanted it to fall. And then I will just go back in here and just make sure that I make that look a little shabby there by peeling out the little strings there. Now this is just a little pocket shape that I cut out of some other scrap fabric here. It kind of matched. It had like little polka dots on it. And I'm just going to hot glue this on to have a little pocket there, because we're going to stuff a little something inside of that here in just a moment. So just using my hot glue, I turn this over and place the pocket. But what I do is I end up sticking my fingers in. You'll kind of see here, I push the edges down, but I want to make sure there's enough room for anything that we might want to stuff in the pocket. So I just stick my fingers in and kind of like balloon it out a little bit. So that way you make sure that you can fit anything in there that you might want to. So now I'm going in and putting a couple of buttons on where like a natural button would go with that apron. Like maybe that's how that strap is affixed to this. And so I just go on either side and place those little buttons. Again, if I find my jar of buttons, I may go in and replace. These were pretty basic buttons that I found, but it was better than nothing. But I also thought it would be really cute to go over the eyes with the buttons as well. That way it kind of looks a little bit more like a traditional, what you would see in the primitive look. And then to make sure that I get these on okay, I'm using my little needle nose pliers there. That just helps me go in and get the precision that I want, rather than like, I mean, if I was to do this with my fingers, I'd probably drop the button and mess it up or something. So that's why I end up using my pliers there, which actually worked really well to get these on. So you can see I just put that glue down. I'm kind of letting it dry a little bit so it's not going to go seeping out everywhere when you place that down. And then with that needle nose, set of needle nose pliers, you can just place that button right down there. And I just thought that gave her just a cute little look. Now, since I want to make her really kind of girly, I thought I will do a little bow or something here. So this is just another fabric that's kind of has the same green tones to it, but it's just a striped fabric here. But I just am using my little X-Acto knife here to kind of peel out some of those threads, and then I will just pull down on the threads too. That's how I kind of fray the edges of it. But I just want to make all of the ribbon nice and frayed. And actually, when I get this done, you'll see here, I decided I want to age this a little bit too. So I'm just running that ink just over this ribbon front and back. And instead of tying a bow, what I end up doing is I just tie a singular knot into it. And I thought that was really cute, because rather than have it be like a traditional bow, it might actually be just tied in a knot, and that might have been what worked when they were making, you know, a primitive doll or something like this. And so I'm just going to take this and glue this just right next to one of the ears there, so it's kind of off-centered. and then the little tails of that bow. And if you want to trim them at all or anything, I mean, do that, but just make sure if you do that you just fray those edges so you don't have any like new edges on it. So one thing I'm going to do now, and I noticed this on a lot of inspiration pieces that I looked up, is some of the bunnies would have little whiskers. And I thought, well, would I sew them on? How would I get them? So on this particular bunny, that nose just lifts up. There's a little bit of glue from Dollar Tree that's holding it down. But I just lifted it up, and then I took the thinnest twine that I could find, that I had even some string or some embroidery thread or something. I just took 3 pieces of it, and I just put those in the glue and then pushed the nose back over the top of it to give her some cute little bunny whiskers there. I don't know, a lot of the pieces that when I looked up primitive bunnies had those, and I thought it really added a fun little look to it. Now I'm just taking a little bit of Dollar Tree greenery here, and I thought, well, this is going to be really cute. Let's just stick some of this little lavender sticking out of her pocket. And then it looked a little bare just to have the one piece there. So I'm just taking off the little greenery that was behind it, and I'll stuff that down there. But I mean, how cute would it be if you had like a cute little heart tucked in there, or a little chick or something? I mean, there's so many cute things that you could do, but even just the flowers were super fun. Now I wanted to put a little rusty not paperclip, but safety pin on here. However, I tried to soak some in vinegar to get that rusty look, but safety pins must take a lot longer than the galvanized metal that I've done before, because they were like as shiny as could be when I pulled them out. So I'm just taking some burnt umber from Apple Barrel, and I'm just getting this pouncing on here. It took 2 or 3 coats. You just want to make sure to let it dry completely in between each coat, because it will kind of rub off. But even some Mod Podge and some cinnamon would do the trick. And if I had some cinnamon, that's probably what I would have done. Either way, it still looks like a little rusty aged paper. I keep wanting to say paper clip, but it's a safety pin clearly. But I do go in, there was just a little bit of a part of the paint that kind of rubbed off there. So I just went in and touched that up with my brush. But I think she looks so cute. Do you guys think I hit that primitive look, or are you thinking that you absolutely hate it? Let me know down in the comments. I just think that she turned out so fun and cute. And you know, my daughter was there with me the whole time making it, and she thought it was so cute. And I mean, that makes it worth it right there, right? That when you do something and your kids are like, oh my gosh, she turned out so cute, and she thought it was so fun. So we need to name her, guys. So I love it when you guys come up with your fun names. So leave me a name for her down in the comments. But I just think she turned out so dang cute. Thank you for joining me for today's Best of 2024 video. This was a hard year for my family. We unexpectedly lost my mom. She passed away in September, and it's been really hard to try and get things back on track. She was truly my best friend and was my biggest supporter. She never missed one of my videos and always had something so nice to say about each and every one of them, and I miss her so much. I am dedicating today's video to the special moments that you share with your family. Here are a few from my family from this year. I hope you enjoy. With that, please have a very safe and very happy New Year's. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.